Okay, we are back. Let's hope part 2 is going to work well. If anyone wants to put in the chat just where I lost you at, I might just go back a few steps, give you all time to sort of catch up, and hope we haven't missed too much. Goodness knows how long I was just in a shed talking to myself for before we cut out. Joys of regional internet. All right. So when I'm stropping, I'll just re-demonstrate the stropping. So you saw how that was a little bit rough and just giving the slightest bit of a jagged cut when I was pulling through the timber there, pushing I should say. So to rectify that, and this is why when I say I don't sharpen my tools, hardly ever, I just strop them. This is one of the reasons why. So I've got my Feel stropping compound, highly recommended that. Everyone I've put that onto really enjoys using that there. And I can, same as working on a stone, but the strop is a bit more forgiving. Just twist that around like that. It's exactly the same as when I was working on the stone in what will I guess have to become part 1 of our Saturday stream today. So I've done the back. Now to get the inside, depending on the curve of my tool, I can bend my piece of leather, but as you can see, that's not a snug fit. That leather won't bend tight enough to fit inside that tool. So then I move on to this little slip strop guy. I'll show you that again. See, that's awesome. I use this a lot. It's really good. You've got all these different profiles. So let's just lather up. I'm using a bit more stropping cream than is necessary. Just a bit heavy-handed today. And because those two there, you can see they're not a perfect match at all shape-wise, but I am going to start here and roll that around. And that's how I'll get my inside edge stropped. That is feeling nice and sharp. What type of leather is best to use for a strop? Stable leather, like not from a stable, but leather that is quite stable. A lot of woodworkers I know will actually get a piece of timber like this and they will nail on a really tight piece of leather so it's rock hard underneath. That works great. You can buy those as well. They're really good, especially for like the wings of your beetle where you don't want to be like digging in, but for sort of really quick on the go, this is just, when I say stable, see the fibers are quite compressed. It's not, you know how some leather's really fluffy and sort of fibrous-y and fall apart? You don't want that. But I can just curl that up and do this really. Oh, someone said they use water buffalo. That's cool. That is very cool. Now we'll just have a test on our practice piece of wood. So these are our previous ones done in the other video before the internet cut out. You can see we've just got a little bit of snagging there, just tiny bit of ripping of the timber fibers, and that's what we're hoping to avoid. Now it sounds better. But I don't know if this trick works, but let's try. They're all really good except for that last cut. And that was my fault because I'm too lazy to clamp this down and I slipped as I was doing the whole thing. But you can see here we're getting much smoother. That's the slipping area that I was talking about. But yeah, we're getting a much smoother cut there, which is good. That's what we're after. Yeah, so if you do that regularly enough, and I suggest if you buy your tools new, you start stropping them as soon as you start using them. That way you have the bevel they're supposed to have on them. I haven't measured the bevel on these, but apparently the like primo wood carving angle is 22.5 degrees. So I suspect that is possibly that. But yeah, if you use it too much and then try to sharpen it back to sharp and re-establish a bevel, you will find it hard to get that ideal angle there. Whereas if you constantly keep doing it and doing it, you'll just have much better results out of your tools. Okay, now I just thought I would really quickly show you how I sharpen. I use a lot of these little flex cut draw knives in my classes. They're great for roughing out three-dimensional shapes. You can see though, they flex. You've got to apply tension to cut. You can apply, so you bend your hands that way, or you can tilt your hands up depending on what you're trying to do. That's why I like them, because they're really versatile. But they can be a little bit tricky to sharpen because you've got handles, and obviously the blade flexes. So I always have them on a block of, have my stone on a block of wood. I'll show you with the water stone. Pull that out on the bucket. It's on a chip. Okay, cool. That's sitting stable now. The reason I have it on a bucket is because you can see how low, my hands are now lower than the bevel, sorry, than the stone. Whereas if I come up like this, I can't get my hands and everything in. So just raise it up. Just re-wet that. Obviously, if you're using water to sharpen your tools, make sure you dry your tools. Otherwise, you will help them go rusty. So I'm finding that angle and I'm just applying the slightest bit of tension. Obviously, if you're using a more traditional, really rigid and heavier draw knife, you wouldn't be able to apply the tension because it would, the metal would be so much tougher. But with these little flexible ones, you have to. And just the whole way along, that is really drying out. Let's re-wet that. Hope that's not in your way. So I'm following that bevel line, sorry, bevel angle. They take a while to get used to. And then I would flip it, clean up the back, I push a little burl frontwards. They don't take much because they are kind of soft. Trying to keep water off the electronics is the tricky part. Now for this, I actually like to use, rather than this loose piece of leather, the harder, the piece of leather here that's on the piece of timber. Again, stropping compound all over there. I figure you might as well be really liberal with it. Now this is where you can find it a bit tricky. So I'm going to apply a little bit of tension. I'm applying tension between the bench and my hand. I'm afraid I can't spin it around the other way so you can actually see it better. It only works one way for me. And I'm just following that edge. Spin it over. I don't want to apply tension like that at all this time. Just keep it flat. Yep, and that is feeling a lot sharper. I think the internet is staggering a bit. I'm getting the spinny wheel coming up. I see a few questions. I'm going to probably have to come closer to the computer to read those. If you've got questions, now is the time to pop them in, please, as I start answering other people's. Oh, just people wanting to know where to get buffalo leather from. That's really interesting. I might try that. That sounds really cool. It wouldn't have ever occurred to me, I don't think. Thank you all for tuning in today. I'm going to rename our 2 live streams, part 1 and part 2, once I'm done with this. If you have any questions on sharpening, please put them into the comments on this video or the part 1 video. I would really appreciate it if you could like the videos. That would help a lot, and then hopefully I'll be able to keep doing them, and subscribe to Carpet Tech YouTube channel. If you want to find me, you can find me via my website is oliviaoconnor.com.au, or on Facebook or Instagram, just search for Olivia O'Connor Carving. Just whilst we've got a couple of minutes left, I'll show you a piece I'm currently working on, and maybe I'm going to share with you what is either one of my smartest moves or one of my most foolish moves when it comes to carving. So this is a rather large cat I'm carving as a memorial piece for a client. You see we're getting a lot of really beautiful texture in here. Once I'm done carving it, my client is an artist, so they will actually be painting it themselves, which is exciting to see how it will go. And because it's being painted, you know, it gives me certain freedoms that I might not have otherwise. But if you see in here, I'm not sure if this is a great idea or not, but I've done it. I have a paper chuck there. So it's 2 layers of PVA. Sorry, 2 layers of paper with just PVA in between them, as I've sandwiched all the layers of this cat together. The idea being, this is his front leg here, back leg, tail. This needs to be hollowed out completely. So I thought if I rough out the cat, I was just playing, getting this hair on before I should be. If I rough out the cat completely, I'll be able to split that open and much easier access, you know, the underside of his belly and everything, and then glue it back together. If this wasn't being painted, I wouldn't do that because I might not get the most perfect join when he comes together again. But I will let you know how this goes as an idea. Please cross your fingers for me. Like I've said several times, it's either the stroke of genius for my lifetime or it's going to be a really messy mistake. But anyway, thank you all for joining. This is what I will be cracking on with this afternoon. I hope you guys all have some fun carving planned for this afternoon. And I will see you in 1 month's time back here again. All right. Thank you. Bye.